Hey guys, we're on day 2 of our very last unit. Granted, our very last unit is kind of a long one, but still, last unit. I'm gonna go ahead, share my screen so that we can look at the learning guide that is on Edmodo for you guys. You can check it out. It's, whoops, not what I wanted to do. It is updated, even though it says that it's not necessarily. We're on day 2 of week 6. So we're going to go through slides 23 through 41 today. We're going to go over female anatomy when it comes to reproduction and a little bit of like terms and dates. So moving to the PowerPoint. The female reproductive tract is, in my opinion, much more complicated than the male reproductive tract. Because hey, girls just gotta be more complicated. We are gonna start similar to the way that we started with the male reproductive tract, where we started kind of from the inside and worked our way out. We're gonna do the same thing for females. So we're gonna start at the ovaries and we are gonna end at the vulva. So ovaries first and foremost. The ovaries' job, their function, is to produce ova or eggs. Ova and eggs mean the same exact thing, but eggs meaning ova, this is where we get the name for ovaries. They produce the eggs. They produce the ova. Female animals, they have 2. Humans, dogs, cats, pigs, cows, all have 2 ovaries. The ovaries are kind of oval shaped. They're not like completely circular, but they're kind of oval. They're the equivalent to the male testicle in that they produce the eggs. The testicles in male animals produce the sperm. Egg plus sperm equals baby. So they serve the same function, so they're kind of almost related to each other. Ovaries have 3 main jobs. First one, gamete production, meaning produce eggs. We already covered that one, produce eggs, job number 1. Second one is to produce hormones. The ovaries produce a lot of hormones that are responsible for a lot of things in female animals. They produce estrogen. That's the primary hormone that they produce. Estrogen causes a lot of things that we see as like strictly feminine. Females they struggle to produce like a lot of muscle. You don't see a lot of female bodybuilders. That's because of estrogen. Estrogen almost limits how much muscle a female can build. Estrogen causes mammary glands to start developing. Mammary glands are what produces milk. Estrogen causes essentially the rest of the body to start looking more feminine. So a lot of women tend to build fat easily, almost, on their hips and their stomach. That's not just like a random thing. That's literally because of estrogen. Estrogen causes fat to be more likely to be deposited on the hips and on the stomach than anywhere else on the female body. This goes for animals, this goes for people. And estrogen also causes female animals to go into heat or to go into estrus. The estrogen levels almost spike in the animal's body. And when those levels spike, it causes the animal to go into heat or to go into estrus, meaning she will stand to be bred. And the third job is to form the corpus luteum, which ends up producing the eggs. Before they turn into eggs, they're these little tiny little things called corpus luteum, and the corpus luteum grow and mature and end up releasing the eggs. Once the egg is released, so this little thing right here, that little tip of the yellow, that is the ovary. It's not very big. Once the ovary releases the egg travels down the oviduct. The oviduct is similar to a hallway. Its job is to take the egg from the ovary and transport it to the uterus. You can also hear the oviducts called the fallopian tubes. I call them the oviducts because ova means eggs, and ducts, think of like an air duct. The air duct takes the air from one place and moves it to another room or another space. The oviducts do the same thing. They take the eggs and they move them from one place to the next stop. This is where fertilization occurs. So literally, the egg is released, and if the sperm doesn't meet it somewhere in here, it's not going to get fertilized. The sperm has to swim all the way through the female reproductive tract for it to end up meeting the egg and fertilizing it. But if we look, we can kind of see this little, almost kind of like a little funnel here, where it goes from being completely round to almost like a U. This is called the infundibulum. The infundibulum is funnel shaped. Fundibulum, funnel. Remember that. The infundibulum's job is kind of like if you think about like cooking, like literally having to use a funnel for something. The funnel is shaped like this. If you are trying to pour sugar into a bottle, it's going to be really hard for you to just take that entire sugar jar and dump it into this little tiny bottle hole. So you take a funnel, the funnel catches it so that when you pour the sugar through the little funnel, it catches it because it has a really wide mouth, and then it slowly funnels it down so that it will fit into that little tiny bottle opening. That's what the infundibulum does. It catches the egg, and then it guides it down into the oviduct. Once it gets through the oviduct, it goes from the ovary to the infundibulum, through the oviduct, then it gets to the uterus. The uterus is also called the womb. This is where, if the egg is fertilized, its stop for a while is going to be in the uterus. This is going to be where the fetus is going to literally attach itself to the wall of the uterus of whatever animal it's in. This is where it's going to develop for how many ever months. In a human, it's 9 months. The baby is going to attach itself somewhere along in here, and this is where it's going to hang out for 9 months until it's ready to get on out of here. The uterus also has these 2 branches. These branches are called horns. They're called uterine horns, and they look different in different animals. So this one right here, this is what the uterus looks like in a horse or a cow or a sheep. In a pig, this is what the uterus looks like. It's basically all uterine horns. And then this is what it looks like in a human woman. The uterus serves the same function in all of these animals, but it looks a little bit different. When it's time for that baby to make its grand exit or grand entrance into the world, it is going to leave the uterus and it is going to go through the cervix. The cervix is, again, it's another passageway. The cervix job is to, if the animal is pregnant, is very, very, very muscular and thick-walled. If the animal is pregnant, the cervix goes from a tube to its seals. It's like, there shall be no entry, you shall not pass. And that's what it tells the sperm. You shall not pass. You are not needed here because there's already a baby inside of the body. So it seals itself out. 1, to prevent the animal from getting pregnant again, because imagine how confusing that would be. And 2, to prevent any kind of pathogens, any kind of diseases, because there's a lot of reproductive diseases out there that some animals, including humans, can get. So the cervix seals itself shut. It goes from this to this, and it completely seals itself shut to protect not only the body, but also the baby. Because if a pathogen were to get in to the female reproductive system and get to the fetus, to get to the baby, then it could cause the mother to lose the baby. That baby, like we taught last class, no babies are born without an immune system. They can't fight anything off. That's why they stay inside their mother for so long. And even when they come out, they still don't have an immune system. They still can't fight for themselves. They're defenseless. If that disease, if that pathogen gets into the female reproductive system, there's a very low chance that that baby's not going to be able to survive. So once it makes its way through the cervix does end up loosening up when the baby is coming out. The baby doesn't have to try to squeeze through here. The cervix will end up loosening itself back up. Once it goes through the cervix, it enters another kind of tube or channel or passageway. And it will make its way out of the vagina. At this point, it is very close to being outside. The vagina, when animals breed, the vagina is going to be where the male deposits the sperm. This is going to be where the penis enters the female's body and deposits the sperm. And the sperm then has to swim all the way through the vagina, through the cervix, through the uterus, to the oviducts. It has to swim a long ways. This is part of the reason that reproduction can be difficult for some animals, because it's not an easy track that the sperm has to make. Then, once it hits the vagina, its a very last stop, if you can even call this a stop, is the vulva. The vulva is what you see when you look at a female animal. The vulva is the external opening. So there is this huge misconception that when you look at an animal, when you look at a female animal, if you look at their rear end, you are looking at their vagina. Completely not true. You should not see their vagina. The vagina should be inside of their body. You are looking at the animal's vulva. The vulva is the external opening. It's outside. Vagina, inside. Vulva, outside. Make sure you get that through this lesson. This is probably one of the bigger takeaways. So the steps in the female reproductive process. First thing that a female animal has to do to be able to get pregnant is to produce an egg or multiple eggs, depending on the animal. It has to produce the egg. The egg has to mature. The egg has to be released. When it is released, it's going to go from the ovary, get caught by the infundibulum, and it's going to start traveling its way through the oviduct. It has to meet the sperm in the oviduct. The female also has to go into estrus, to go into heat. So she can release all the eggs that she would like to. But if she's not in estrus, if she's not in heat, if she's not going to stand still for the male animal to mount her so that she can get pregnant. It takes two to make a baby. If she's not going to stand still and let the male mount her, she's not going to get pregnant. She's not going to have a baby. She has to enter estrus. She has to have an egg released that is mature. She has to be in heat. If both of those things are true, if both of those things happen, then the sperm should make its way through the reproductive system, and it should meet the egg in the oviduct. It will fertilize the egg from there. When the sperm and the egg meet, you're going to get a fetus, you're going to get a baby. That fetus is going to continue traveling its way, making its last little trip through the oviduct, and then it's going to stop in the uterus. Here the uterus is going to say, you should stay here a while. And the fetus is going to say, yes, I should. The fetus is going to implant itself. It's literally going to attach itself to the wall of the uterus, and it is going to hang out there. By attaching itself to the uterus, It's making sure that it's not going to leave the body early. This is going to be where it's going to get all of its nutrients from. It's not just floating around in the uterus doing its own little thing. It attaches itself to make sure that it's going to stay there for as long as it needs to stay there. And it's not going to make an accidental entrance into the world too early. When it's ready and when it's time, then the female is going to go into parturition, meaning she is going to give birth. Parturition means the baby is coming. So when the baby is fully developed, it's going to unattach itself from the uterus, and it's going to start making its way through the reproductive tract, making its way out. It's going to go through the uterus. It's going to unattach itself from the uterus, and it's going to go through the cervix, through the vagina, out the vulva. When this process starts, when parturition starts, it triggers other hormones in the female's body to say, the baby is on the way. We need to feed this baby. So the female's body is going to start producing milk so that when the baby is coming and when the baby is out, that baby is able to get that colostrum. If you remember when we talked about colostrum last class, colostrum is that first milk that the baby gets. This milk has all the antibodies. Basically, it's an immune system in a drink. It's really, really important that this baby gets this colostrum. It gets that first milk so that it's protected, because it no longer has its mother's body to be able to keep it safe. It's on its own now. It's really important that it drinks the mother's milk. So this is why the mother has to start producing milk. So this is a picture of a reproductive tract of a cow. You can see the fetus right here. I don't know what ended up happening, but I'm guessing that something caused the cow, the mother, to die. And when they did an autopsy to see what happened, they looked in the reproductive tract and they found that she was also pregnant. So the fetus was hanging out here. You can see where it's darker up here, where it's literally attached itself to the uterine wall so that it can get these nutrients. Ovulation rates. So an ovulation rate is essentially how many eggs is the female going to release when she goes into estrus. When she says, I will stand still and let this male animal mate me. How many eggs is she releasing? One egg means one baby if that one egg gets fertilized. So a cow typically only releases one egg per estrus, meaning if the cow gets pregnant, it should have one baby. A ewe, which is a female sheep, when she goes into estrus, she's releasing 1 to 3 eggs, meaning she can have anywhere from 1 to 3 babies, depending on how many of those eggs get fertilized. Normally, she'll end up having 2. 2 is right in the middle. She'll normally end up having 2 lambs. That is normal. A sow, which is a female pig, she releases every estrus 10 to 20 eggs. This is because pigs have litters. They have normally 12 to 15 piglets each time that they give birth. Kind of like dogs. Dogs, depending on the dog growing up, we raise labs. Those labs would have about 10 puppies, meaning our female dog, when she was in heat, when she was in estrus, she would release about 10 eggs. So a sow will release anywhere from 10 to 20 eggs. And any number of those can get fertilized. Typically, it's going to be about 12 to 15 are going to be fertilized, are going to turn into piglets. A mare, which is a female horse, will only release typically 1 egg per estrus. Horses are pregnant for a very long time. And it's also considered to be much more high risk if a female horse has more than 1 foal or baby horse. She has to have very, very special care taken of her to make sure that she and both of the foals, both of the babies, are healthy. and that they're going to make it for as long as they need to make it because they're pregnant for a very long time. But typically, a mare will only have one foal. She'll only release one egg for one foal. And then a hen, which is a female chicken, she will release about 28 eggs per month, meaning about one egg for every 28 hours. This is why our chickens lay about one egg a day. If that egg was fertilized and she sat on it for 21 days, then it would turn into a chick. Because we don't have any roosters, we don't have any male chickens, the egg does not get fertilized and it just gets laid naturally. But hens will release an egg about every 28 hours, which when you do the math will end up being about 28 eggs per month. So roughly one egg per day, thereabout. Terminology related to reproduction in female animals. For cows, when they have a baby, it's called calving, and they have a calf. When ewes or sheep have a baby, it's called lambing, and the baby is called a lamb. When sows have babies, which are pigs, it's called farrowing. And the babies are called piglets. I should say piglets. When chickens or hens have babies, it's called hatching. The eggs hatch. And the babies inside are called chicks. When mares or horses have babies, it's called foaling. And the baby is called a foal. And then when goats have babies, it's called kidding. And the babies are called kids. So typically, with 4 of these 6, when whatever the offspring, whatever the baby is called, you just add ing, and you get the name of the act of them giving birth. Lamb, add ing, you get lambing, which is the name for when sheep have babies. And gestation period. Keep in mind that a gestation is the term for how long an animal is pregnant. So cows, they're pregnant for 283 days, which is about 9 months, thereabout. And then lactation is how long they're producing milk. Beef cows will typically produce milk for 180 to 270 days. So that's about 6 to 9 months. Beef cows will produce milk. And there's a plane coming over. That's a big plane. Dairy cows, they're still pregnant for the same amount of time. They're still pregnant for 200. Okay, I think we're good. I live right next to an airport. Dairy cows are still pregnant for the same amount of time. They're both still cows. One is used for beef, one is used for milk. Still cows, still pregnant for the same amount of time. But they do not produce milk for the same amount of time. Dairy cows have been bred to produce milk for longer because that's what they're used for. They're used for their milk. So we would want them to produce milk for longer. So once a dairy cow has a baby, she's going to produce milk for about a year. A ewe, a sheep, is going to be pregnant for 148 days. So that is that's about 5 months. And she's going to produce milk from anywhere from 2 to 4 months. Sows, or female pigs, they're pregnant for exactly 114 days. It's a thing, 114 days. If your pig has not given birth by the 114th day, you may have a problem. And they're going to end up producing milk for about 21 days is normally how long they'll allow the piglets to drink the milk, and then after that they'll let the female pig dry up, which basically means like they take the piglets away and they don't let the piglets drink her milk anymore. They start trying to get the female pigs to, or the baby pigs to start eating dry food. And then a horse is pregnant for 330 to 345 days. Almost a year. 11 months that horse is pregnant. This is why they typically only have one baby, one foal, because there's a lot that could go wrong in 11 months of being pregnant. That's a long time that you have to worry about your horse getting in trouble, getting hurt, getting sick, and you end up losing not one, but 2 babies. And then the foals, the baby horses, are going to end up nursing from their mom, drinking their mom's milk for anywhere like 3 months to 5 months. And I believe this is the last slide. This is the estrus, how long estrus is. How long is a female going to stand to be bred? Out of the estrus cycle of the time she's ready to be bred, she will allow herself to be mated and bred, and the time that she won't. Cows will only be in estrus. They will only allow others to breed them 16 to 18 hours. You have less than a day to get a cow pregnant. It is very intensively managed to figure out when this cow is in estrus and she's ready to be bred. A ewe, a female sheep, is in estrus for 24 to 36 hours. So a little bit longer time. A sow or a female pig, it's great. You got 2 to 3 days. That's wonderful. That's like a great time span. And then a horse is going into estrus. She will stand to be bred for 90 to 170 hours. So that's like a week, basically, that the female will stand to be bred. Although typically with cows and horses, they're so large that if they tip over while they're mating, somebody's gonna get hurt. So they're not gonna be bred with another male, they're gonna be artificially inseminated. And then chickens don't have an estrus period because they're essentially consistently releasing eggs. So they can be bred just about at any time. So what you guys are gonna do for your assignment today, I have put together a labeling assignment. Where is it? I guess I should refresh because I just had it. There it is. It's on a PowerPoint, so it makes for really easy labeling. Maybe it'll load. I guess I shouldn't have exited out of it. Y'all are gonna again create text boxes to type in whatever part of the female reproductive system the arrow is pointing at. And then you got your word bank right here. You're going to use all of these words. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 words. And and this one counts as one question. There are 8 arrows. And you're just going to label that, turn it in. It doesn't have to be exact. Like if you put a box up here, I'm going to just kind of assume that you meant this arrow. So it doesn't have to be exact, as long as it's close enough that I can kind of tell what you're pointing at. Wonderful. So let me know what questions you guys have. Like I said, we're on our last unit. Our last unit is a little bit on the longer side because it does include a lot of information. But stay strong. Keep working on y'all's assignments so that you are going to be fully prepared for next year for animal science too. I'm excited. Zoom every Tuesday, Thursday, 1 o'clock. Ask questions, catch up, just stop in and see me because I miss you guys. But otherwise, reach out. However, if you guys have questions that need an immediate answer, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, y'all.